Hey, so I'm going to show you how to master the unit circle so that you don't have to memorize it, and it's really easy. So to master it, you have to break it into two parts, a pi over 4 part and a pi over 6 part, and I'll explain this throughout the video. So the first part, you know that the unit circle has different things, so it usually has like a line, 3 lines in each quadrant, right? And we know that the middle line, this line right here, is the pi over 4 per se. So what I'm going to do real quick is erase these lines that I did, and I'll show you how these work. So these are the 4 middle lines that are throughout the unit circle, and how I think about it is you have 2 pi here, right? And this is pi over 4. So that's pi over 4. This is 2 pi over 4, which simplifies to be pi over 2. Three pi over 4. Four pi over 4. 5 pi over 4. 6 pi over 4. And 7 pi over 4. So all you have to do is simplify. And the ones that I need to simplify are this one and this one, because I already simplified this one. So 6 pi over 4, if you simplify that, that ends up being 3 pi over 2, which we know already. And if you simplify this one, it ends up being pi. And that's the first part of the unit circle. So we already did the one line that was out of 3 in one quadrant. Now we're going to try to do the other 2 lines. So all you need to remember is that this is 2 pi, and the first one right here, this one right here, is equal to pi over 6. And that's what we're going to go by for this next circle. So then we just have to go around the circle. 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, and 11 pi over 6. And then all you have to do is simplify. So this one up here ends up being pi over 2. We already know that. This one right here, it's 2 divided by 6. That ends up being pi over 3. This one right here ends up being 2 pi over 3. This one ends up being pi. This one right here ends up being 4 pi over 3. And this one here ends up being 5 pi over 3. And the last one, we already know, is 3 pi over 2. And I hope that concludes putting the unit circle together. So all you really need to do now is just put it all together. You had all your values now. All you have to do is make sure you have all 3 lines in each of the quadrants of the unit circle. Put your values there, and you're good for the radians.